Are you thinking about purchasing a home in Northern Illinois and you're wondering what the sales contract process looks like? Well, I'm about to show you, and we're getting started right now. What's up, everybody? I'm Paul Ambrogio, and on this channel we talk about living in Chicago's best suburban communities, where they are and what makes them so great, and in some cases not so great. You're gonna get the truth here. So hey, if this is your first time to the channel, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe below and tap on the bell so you're notified whenever I upload new videos to this channel. If you're thinking of moving to or relocating out of any of Chicago's suburban communities, make sure you give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. However you want to get a hold of us, know that we've got your back when moving to or out of Chicagoland's marketplace. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a multi-board residential sales contract we use right here in Northern Illinois. And for a bonus, you gotta love those bonuses. If you stick around to the end, I will provide you with the additional documents and disclosures that are required when making an offer on a property in the state of Illinois. Even selling a property, you need the same forms. Okay, so please stand by while I literally run into the other room and jump on my computer so we can fill out the sales contract together. I'll see you in just a moment. All right, folks, we are back. Sorry it took a few seconds. I had to make a detour and get a bottle of water. This is going to be a long one, so hunker down, and I'll try and get through this in 30 minutes for you. You can always fast forward if you'd like, but it's really important to understand the sales contract, the residential sales contract, and what you are signing. In advance, I got to apologize. I'm not going to be staring right at the camera here because I am doing the screen record. So I'm looking at the sales contract while talking to you. So bear with me. There's multiple screens going. So you can see up here, I typed my name in. So what we're looking at is the multi-board residential sales contract 7.0. This is created and approved by the local bar association and our various real estate boards. We call this the common contract. So you can see down here on the bottom, who created it, who it's approved by, who they can use, or who can use the form, etc. Basically, most of Northern Illinois uses this multi-board residential real estate sales contract version 7.0. So here we go. So up here we have my name. I'm going to pretend like I'm purchasing this property here. We're going to put in the seller's name. Let's just put in owner of record for now. A real estate agent will typically put, a real estate broker will put that in, owner of record, but it's always good to take the extra step, look on the seller disclosure and put that name on there, just so you have right from the beginning, you have the owner's name on there instead of having to add it later. Most mortgage companies will ask you to take this owner of record out and put the actual seller's name in there. So you might as well do it now from the start. So here on line 7 is where you're going to put in the size of the property, right? So most of this is going to populate from the MLS. So when your real estate broker is writing an offer for you, they're going to sit down on the computer and link up the MLS, the property that's on the MLS, to their PDF, probably Adobe or whatever they're using. And they're going to go ahead and fill the blanks in. Now, a lot of this will automatically populate for them from the MLS. But let's just say, it's 10,000, square foot lot, let's just say. Then this is where the address is going to go. So it's 123 South Main Street. There's no unit number. And I like to have mostly, if you can, all the blanks filled, with a line, a hyphen or something if you're not using it, just so you're not leaving that blank space out there for anybody to write anything in. So, you'll put the property here. We'll just call it Main Street, Illinois, and you'll put in a zip code. And again, I'm not going to go through and fill out everything on here. I'm just going to kind of walk you through and talk to you what some of this stuff means. So we'll skip through some of the typing on here to move quicker. Here's where you're going to put the permanent tax ID number. So that is your tax ID that never changes. It stays with the real estate. It stays with the property, and it's given to you by the township or the county. So then Here you're going to check off if it's a single family home, is it attached or detached, or is it a multi-unit building? If the property has a parking spot that's deeded, you're mostly going to see that in condominiums like maybe downtown Chicago, where the parking is sold separately. So there has a separate PIN number for that. So you're going to write that in here. Then you're going to go down here to fixtures and personal property. But keep in mind, the lender is financing the real estate, the mortgage, right, to the property. They're not financing the dining room set, the bedroom, furniture, maybe the ping pong table in the basement, some things that the seller may be willing to leave for you, or you're asking that they leave for you as part of the offer. The lender does not want to see that on this contract. So if you have personal property or additional items that you work out with the owner that they like to sell to you or you'd like to buy, keep that separate. Pay with a check or cash at after closing. Don't try and get that on the sales contract, because that just throws not a red flag, but it's just an extra step, because the lender is going to ask that you remove it then. But the common things on there you can go ahead and check off. So, the refrigerator, if they're leaving that, the stove, the microwave, these are common things that are okay within a lender that you can leave in the property as fixtures or personal property. Here you're going to write down other items that are included of no added value. That's if you have the ping pong table and you only have one item and you just want to put it on here. Go ahead and put it here, but know that the lender may ask for that to come off, even though it says no added value. And then items not included. So if there's something that the seller is specifying and they just want to etch it in your mind, this is not included, they're going to type that in there. Down here on 31, this states that everything needs to be in working order at closing, right? So if the AC was working when you made the offer, the AC needs to be working when you close on the property. Okay. All right. So now let's go over here. We're going to check this box if there is a home warranty that we're going to talk about later in paragraph 32. One of the most important ones here, purchase price, that's going to go in here. Keep in mind, anything in this contract basically can be changed during the attorney review period other than price. That's the only thing the attorneys can't really legally change on this contract. And we'll get into more of that as we go through this. So line 39, this is a credit at closing. You may be tight for a down payment, and you might be doing, you might be financing 96.5%, putting down 3.5%. And maybe your funds are tight and your lender says, hey, can you ask the seller to help pay for some of your closing costs? This is where you would write that in, okay? Now we've got earnest money here. Earnest money, there's not a whole lot of value, in my opinion, to earnest money. It is good faith money, and it does show the buyer's commitment to buying the property. But from my experience, 99% of the time, if there's a problem, the buyer or purchaser is getting their money back. I've seen the seller where they're able to keep the earnest money. Let's say if the buyer was approved for the mortgage and they show up to the closing and they try and renegotiate, or they refuse to close after they were approved for the mortgage. There is some, fine lines there, but it does happen where the seller can keep the earnest money, but it's rare. So earnest money, this is where it's going to go. The more money down obviously looks better to the seller, but again, this money is going to come out of your bank account and it's going to go into a non-interest bearing account held by the listing real estate broker typically, and that's going to sit there until closing, and then that's going to get credited towards your down payment. Okay, then here's where we're going to write down how many days before you bring it in. Typically it's 1 to 3 business days, but you could go 15 business days if you want, and if the seller agrees to it, that's what it is. But most sellers want it in right away to make sure and show your good faith and your commitment. So usually within 1 to 3 days from my experience. Here, 43 is if you're going to bring in extra money, let's say after a certain date. You're going to put that in there and you'll fill in the date, the amount up here. At the bottom of every page is where you're going to see the buyer and seller are going to initial. Okay, and then the address automatically populates from what we filled in up at the top. On line 45, we're going to check off who's holding their earnest money. Actually, there's a lot of real estate companies now, a lot of online brokers that are really not committed to the marketplace. They may have one physical address in the state of Illinois, and they really can't hold earnest money because they don't want the legalities of it. When you're a real estate company, in my opinion, you need to do the process from A to Z, and not just A to M or A to S. Follow your duties, and one of the duties, in my opinion, is to hold earnest money. A lot of brokers, like I said, independents or people that are not established in the area, just don't want that risk. They will not hold earnest money, and that's okay according to the state of Illinois. You have your closing. This is where the closing date's going to go. Okay. Financing. Everybody's going to initial here. Okay, we're not going to go through everything word for word. If you want to sit down, I'll be happy to do a Zoom call with you, or we can meet here at the office, and we'll kind of walk through every step of the contract. And this is what I do for every client. We sit down and we go through it so we fully understand what we are signing, because yes, you can put a spin on this. It could be an offer, expression of interest. In all reality, it's a contract. And when the seller signs it, it is binding. So you want to make sure you understand what you're signing. Down here, so again, we're going to initial here. This is where we're going to fill in the mortgage info. Type of mortgage, is it conventional? Is it FHA? We're going to put down the loan amount. We're going to put down the interest rate, how many years we're going to finance that for. Okay, let's keep going down here. If you are submitting a cash offer, but you still want to have the option to get financing, that's where you would fill in this section of the contract. I'm looking to scroll back up here. If it's all cash, this is where it goes. All cash, no mortgage. All cash, but you might get a mortgage. You're not sure. Down here, we're going to check off if we received all these items from the seller. We're going to check it off as has. And if we have not, we're going to check that off. And we're going to go through that at the end. Shh. That's one of the bonuses. Shh. Okay, over here, 122. This is where your tax proration goes. We're a year behind on real estate taxes typically. So we do need to get a little bit more money from the sellers since they're giving us a credit at closing based on last year's tax bill. We're going to ask for typically 5% more of the last year's ascertainable tax bill to help cover any increase in taxes if they do go up. If they don't go up and they go down, you win. If they go above 5%, which they typically don't, but if they did, you'd lose a little bit. So it's a hit and miss. It's a delicate balance for both sides. And typically 105% is the number that goes in there. Okay. If there's a condominium or if there's an HOA, all the HOA information will go in here, like the monthly assessment or the yearly assessment. Okay. Here's some of the big things. This is very important. The next two items, probably the most important in this residential sales contract. Line 135, number 10, attorney review. Within 5 business days after the date of acceptance, the attorneys for the respective parties, by notice, may approve this contract, or they can disapprove the contract. Okay? But again, disapproval cannot be solely based on price, right? There has to be some reasoning. You never want to say I'm canceling because of price from either side. So we won't go through this, but know that it's 5 business days for both sides, both attorneys, buyer and seller, to review the sales contract and make any suggestions or modifications other than purchase price. But be aware, if there are any suggested changes, this now becomes a counter offer basically. And either party can say no, cancel, and move on to somebody else. They don't owe you the time or day. They don't have to come back and say no. They can just say cancel the transaction and move on to somebody else. So whenever you ask for things after the attorney review, you want to be cautious. You want to be careful and precise on what you're asking for, especially in these crazy times that we're in right now with multiple offers. Down here, which I do not ever recommend, is waiving your professional inspection. We've had so many people waive them recently with the crazy buyer frenzy, low inventory market. And I really can't support that. Even if you look at it yourself and you feel comfortable, it's your decision and you're going to initial here. But I'm going on record and saying I would never give up my right to a home inspection. You just don't know what some of those hidden defects are. And that's why we have a home inspector to give you that second opinion. Okay, let's go down here to home inspection. Conveniently located right under the waiver. And so here again, you have 5 business days as a buyer to conduct a home inspection at your cost and make sure you're comfortable with the property. Okay, now let's say there's some hidden defects that come up. Let's say some plumbing lines are tied up or leaking somewhere that you didn't know when you made an offer. Let's say they found discoloration in the attic. Those are things you didn't know about when you made an offer. In my opinion, and most, according to this paragraph, that's legitimate. You can go back to the seller and say, hey, I still want your property, but these items were hidden. We didn't know about it. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we don't think you knew about it either. But we're just coming back saying, hey, we really can't pay that price anymore, knowing that we have so much that we have to put into it that we didn't know before. So at that time, the seller can then say, tough, take it the way it is. Or they could say, okay, we'll give you what you want. We like you. We want to keep it together. Or they can come back and meet you halfway, or give you 25%, or give you 10%, or whatever you're asking. They may fix it themselves. They may offer to give you money to fix it. They may offer to give you a small amount to have you fix it. You just don't know. But again, I caution you, in this market, you really don't want to be asking for things if you don't want to risk the seller just canceling and moving on to somebody else, just because the market's so strong. So again, if it's legitimate and you can't live and move on without getting it fixed or remediated or repaired, by all means, ask for it. Okay, so let's move down here. And a lot of this, we'll be here all day if we start to go through it. A lot of this just calls out things that need to take place in the contract. Like you have to get homeowners insurance. Your lender's going to require that. There needs to be flood insurance. If it's in a floodplain, again, your lender's going to require that. If it's attached, if it's a condo or an HOA, there's certain documentation that's required in the state of Illinois that the seller must provide the buyer and the mortgage company. So that's this section here. All right, let's keep going here. This is the type of deed that we're looking for. We love that warranty deed if we can get it. There's many different types of deeds out there, and that could be another video down the road. But we're looking for a warranty deed mainly with this type of transaction. If you're buying a foreclosure, the bank or whoever's selling it is going to give you a different type of deed. Typically, they won't give you a warranty deed because that's like the ultimate. And with the foreclosure, even with title insurance, they're uncomfortable giving a warranty deed. So again, that's another video we could do. Down here, you have municipal transfer tax, ordinance fees, and all that good stuff. That's if there's a state or county tax. Let's say there's a village exit tax or an entrance tax. I wouldn't say every village or city, but many do. Probably, if I had to guess, maybe 50% have a tax for you to move in and move out. Title to the property, we're stipulating what type of title we want. We want clean title. We don't want any encumbrances. We want to be able to do what we want with our property and sell it freely down the road. So that's where the title insurance comes into play. Again, that could be another video. Survey, we're asking the seller to provide you a survey that's within 6 months. The reason why we're asking the seller to do that is, I don't know. Really, it should be the buyer. It's the buyer's lender that is requesting a survey no more than 6 months old. So really, the buyer should be paying for it. But in the state of Illinois, it's a seller charge, at least on the contract it is. This can always be negotiated. The seller can say, no, I'm not paying for it, and throw it back at you, the buyer, to pay for it. So, but the way the contract is, we're asking the seller to provide us a new survey within 6 months so we can give it to the lender, so they can be happy and satisfy that part of the issue that may come up on the mortgage. So here, damage to real estate, that's if something happens to the property before closing. We're not going to worry about that too much. Although, what happens if the house burns down? Are you still obligated to buy it? No. Okay. Condition of the real estate needs to be in the same condition. And right here, seller agrees to leave the property or leave the real estate in broom clean condition. All garbage and personal property that is not to be conveyed to the buyer. And conveyed, we would put that on page 1. Remember where the personal property and all that was? If it's not in there, we want it out, right? All garbage, all personal property that we didn't agree to must be out of the house, and it needs to be in broom clean condition. Now, for some reason, listing brokers sometimes neglect to go over this part with the seller, and you may get to the final walkthrough and there could be paint cans, hardware, wood up in the garage rafters, tile that you're not going to need, and it's probably tile that's 3 layers under the subfloor of the house or something. These are things that the seller just left thinking that you may want them. In all reality, you don't. You're going to remodel, you're going to do your own thing. All that stuff should be gone. So, when we do our final walkthrough, we'll make sure it's all gone. And if not, we'll go back to the seller and say, hey, the contract says broom clean, all garbage and personal property gone, and we'll get that corrected, right? So that's what our final walkthrough is for. And that final walkthrough is usually the day before closing. We'll go back and make sure the property is in the same condition that it was when we made an offer. Okay. All right, let's keep chugging down here. We're almost done with page 7 of 13. Can you believe it? We are halfway. So right here is where we're going to check off if the property has any special taxes, if it's a special service area with taxes, any special assessments going on in the area. We're going to check are not, is not. We're going to initial. It's up to the seller to correct that. We want the seller to agree that they did not make any modifications to the property without a building permit, right? That's in this section here. We don't want to move into the property and find out they put a roof on and never closed the permit or never got a permit. We want them on the hook to make sure what we're getting is accurate here, okay? We're going to scroll down here. This defines business days, basically Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that's important when the seller's attorney or the buyer's attorney forgot to send out their modification letter and it's 5 o'clock on a Friday. They just bought an extra hour there. They got till 6 o'clock to extend that attorney review or home inspection period if they forgot to address any issues during that review period. Right here, we talk about electronic digital signatures. So we could do this digitally, DocuSign, any of those different digital platforms. You can sign and it's legally binding. Okay, we're not going to talk about escrow here. Let's keep chugging along. Down here. Now, that up to line 369, that's all the legalities in the contract. That's all the standard stuff. Now, everything below this, line 370 and below, are optional. They are provisions of the contract where sometimes it may pertain and sometimes it may not. So we're only going to initial each paragraph that we would like to incorporate into everything above, into the original sales contract, okay? So if you have a home to sell, and you're not a first-time buyer, let's say you have a home to sell or you sold it and you're waiting for a closing, this is where this paragraph here is what we're going to incorporate into the sales contract by initialing and filling in the blanks. We're going to assume you're a first-time buyer. This is your first home. You don't have anything to sell. So, of course, we're not going to be including that, okay? Let's scroll down. This is all if you had a home to sell or close on, okay? Now we're down to number 31. So let's focus on these numbers as we go. 31, 32, 33. We're not going to use a cancellation of a prior contract typically unless we made an offer on another property and it fell apart because of a home inspection and we're just waiting to get the formal cancellation and we don't want to be bind to 2 contracts, 2 different properties, we may initial that, okay? Or if the seller, if this property that you're making an offer on was on the market before and the buyer couldn't get financing and the home came back on the market, we would ask for a proof that they canceled the first offer because we don't want to get stuck waiting to find out that they're going to sell it to the first buyer anyhow, okay? Home warranty, we could ask the seller or the seller could be offering a home warranty, which is 12 months typically. That covers like the AC, the furnace, in most cases, the AC and furnace. Most of the appliances, most of them do not include a washer dryer, but they do cover a refrigerator stove. These home warranties are not the best. If it's given to you, great, take it. But if you're asking the seller to buy you one and you think it's going to be the end all, save all, be all, it's really not. But it could help in a crunch. You know, I'm not going to say totally that it's horrible. I mean, it does have some positives, don't get me wrong, but sometimes when the furnace goes and they're only willing to put in their generic model that is not standard or substandard for you, it could be a chore to try and get them to put in what you were hoping for. Down here for well and septic, let's say we bought a property that's on an acre or a half acre and it doesn't have city services. Maybe there's a well. We're going to ask the seller to provide a well and sanitary septic test to make sure that it is working. That's at the seller's cost. But again, the seller can say, no, you pay for it, the buyer. And we could say, no, you, the seller, pay for it as the contract. And we can go back and forth and negotiate that. This is for usually government backed loans, wood destroying infestation. You can always ask the seller to provide a termite report. Typically, when that's required, it goes to the buyer, but it is in here where we ask the seller to do it, and you could ask the seller to do it on government type loans like FHA and VA. All right, possession after closing. We did a couple of these recently, and we haven't really done them in the last 15 years. But with this crazy market, we found that we had to do them. We're not going to spend any time on this because I don't think we're going to have that. There's such one-offs, very rare nowadays. Let's go down here where some of the things here that are really still used as is condition. Line 484, paragraph 36. This is where the seller may be saying, hey, we're selling it in as is condition. We don't want to be responsible for anything after you move in. That's what this is. So you're going to go ahead and initial here. Okay. And that's only if the seller's requiring it and you're willing to accept this language. Here on 498, paragraph 37. Let's say you made an offer on a property and your husband or wife is, in Wisconsin and you guys are moving down to Illinois and only one of you came with for the property tour and it's a crazy market and you have to have it. You got to make an offer right now. Well, this is how you can make an offer, and you can make it subject to somebody else taking a look at the property by a certain date. Okay. Attachments we won't go through. We're not going to go through miscellaneous provisions. We don't really use this too much, but short sales, if the owner's financing the property for you, that's where we would check some of that off. So now we're down to page 13. We're getting to the end. This is where the dates go, the buyer's information, the seller's information, the buyer's broker, buyer's attorney, buyer's mortgage company, and the whole selling side. Also HOA contact information. Okay. If the seller rejected your offer, let's say it's a multiple offer and they rejected it, you can ask the seller to initial date, stamp it, time and date stamp it, and initial that their listing broker actually presented our offer to them and that they formally rejected. This way we know it's getting presented and it wasn't missed by the listing broker for some strange reason. Okay, so that is 13 pages of the residential sales contract, and we are approaching 28 minutes on this video, and we still got to give you the bonuses. So if I missed something or if you had any questions on what we went over, please, 847-668-3774, and I think we're going to have that right across the screen here. Give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, paul@go24homes.com or paul@illinoispropertysearch.com. Reach out to me and I'll be happy to look at the contract. Happy to go through things with you. And of course, I'd love to be your real estate broker. So if you're in the market, reach out and let's chat. All right, so now it's time for the bonuses, right? Let's get to these bonuses. So in the state of Illinois, you have some forms, some disclosures that are required that the seller give you, the buyer, so you know what you're making an offer on, okay? Some of those documents we're going to look at right here. Let's see if we can get to them. We have Illinois Seller Disclosure Law Pamphlet, okay? That's something that the buyer's broker would give you. There's the lead-based paint disclosure. There's also a lead-based paint disclosure manual that will go along with that. You have your radon disclosure and radon pamphlet. Okay. And then we have the residential real property disclosure report. So the seller should be giving you the residential real property disclosure, the radon, and the lead-based paint disclosure. Okay, now your buyer's broker will be giving you the pamphlet for radon and the pamphlet for lead paint, and then also possibly a pamphlet for the Illinois residential real property disclosure and what that means in the law and all that good stuff. But really what we're looking for are these documents from the seller, the radon, the lead, and the seller disclosure. There also might be a wire fraud disclosure in there. We use that typically because that's something new here in the industry and we want everybody to be aware of it. But those are your must-tos. If you go to make an offer on a property and you don't see the seller disclosure, the lead paint, and the radon, you technically and legally could not have a legally binding contract without those disclosures because they're part of the contract. And it's something that you need to review and you need to sign. So make sure you get them. The buyer's broker will be able to pull those right off the MLS, and you could look at those, see what the condition of the property is. Let's see if we can pull this one up real quick for you. Yep. So here's what the seller disclosure looks like, right? The seller is going to fill in their info. They're going to put a date on here, and they're going to check off a series of questions here. If they're aware of any material defects in the property, the key word is I am aware. If the seller is not aware of it, how are they going to answer this? Yes or no, right? Probably no if they're not really aware of it. But if they're aware of it, they must disclose that they are. Now, if, here's an example, and I'm not an attorney, but let's say the foundation in the basement had a vertical crack going at an angle, concrete cracks, right? We have all these cracks in our basements. And the seller knows that there's a crack there. They need to disclose that. But let's say that the seller knew there was a crack there and they had one of the companies come out and fix it, like Permaseal, or that's one of the big ones. But there's, many different basement companies in our area. Let's say they had one of them come out and they repaired it. And typically you get a lifetime warranty with this. So you can, as a seller, check off, I am not aware, because you actually had it fixed. Or you could check, I am aware, and then explain down here that, you had a crack in the past that you were aware of, you had Permaseal out, you had it fixed, it's now been rectified, and there's a lifetime transferable warranty or something like that, just to cover yourself. More disclosure is better than none, right? So disclose, disclose, disclose. That's my motto. Cover yourself. So some of the funny ones on here are, there's really one I love. I am aware of the property has been used for the manufacture of methamphetamine as defined in Section 10 of the Meth Controlled and Community Protection Act. So I guess, you can't sell a house if it was a meth lab. I've never seen one, but I hear they're out there. So I've never seen, I got full disclosure, Breaking Bad, I know that was about that, I think, some kind of drugs. And I saw the first episode of Breaking Bad, the trailer, and I've never watched anything, so really just the opening trailer, and that was it. I've never seen Breaking Bad. You're probably like, are you kidding me? Nope, never did. So, but I think that's what it was about. So anyhow, that's the disclosure. Both parties sign it. Again, that's got to be part of the offer process. We're going to fly back over here, again, back to the contract, and we're going to end on that. So we're hitting 34 minutes on this. I hope you found value. And if you have any questions, reach out to me, right? Okay, so now I'm going to run back to the other room and I'm going to record the ending. So stand by. You know the ending by now, but I would love for you to listen to it again. And remember, subscribe below. Tap on the bell so you're notified every time we upload new videos. I love what I do. I love real estate. Actually, this is year 30. March 1991, I became a licensed real estate broker in the state of Illinois. And this past March, I celebrated, didn't really celebrate. I don't think I told anybody, but it was 30 years in the business as a full-time licensed Illinois real estate broker. And this is all I've done. I have not had any other career besides actually owning a mortgage company and owning a couple real estate offices back in the day. This is the only thing that I've done, and I absolutely love it. So reach out. I'm happy to help. Thanks so much. And again, stand by. We're going to run in the other room. We'll talk soon. Well, I hope this video gave you some insight to the sales contract and forms required when making an offer on a residential property in Northern Illinois. If you should have any additional questions about any of the paperwork or any of the suburbs that we feature on this channel, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. And please don't forget to subscribe below. And for more information on Chicago's best suburban communities, check out some of our properties for sale at IllinoisPropertySearch.com. That's IllinoisPropertySearch.com. This is where you'll find one of the easiest and friendliest property search tools in the industry. I promise you that. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm Paul Ambrogio, licensed real estate broker in the state of Illinois and the wonderful state of Florida. If you're thinking about making a move from Illinois to Florida or Florida to Illinois, I would love the opportunity to be your go-to real estate broker. Please reach out and ask. Thanks for watching. You have a great day.